So you have been birthed into biological form, an amazing miracle, taking spirit energy, birthing it into biology, but also quite harrowing, because you knew at the very deep part of you that you were here now. We call this first era of humanity, we call it the Lemurian era. It lasted for millions and millions and millions of years. But you could imagine back in Lemuria, we had beings of all sizes and shapes, different brain structures, different cellular structures, but started setting up a standardized template. And it is the template that you now know as the human body. Well, the next step was to begin to standardize the mind. We had now the developing human biology. We had different mental capabilities, different sizes of the mind. And we all wanted to be able to have about the same size head, because nobody likes being called a fathead. But you know humans. There were some who wanted a little bit better body, a little bit bigger brain. This original group who founded Atlantis took a certain ownership of it. They felt that they deserved perhaps more mind power. They deserved better crystals to work with. They deserved more glamorous and attractive bodies. Well, obviously, this creates some type of imbalance, and it did within the humans, an imbalance that eventually led to the downfall of Atlantis. For the mental refinements or standardization, there were those many who wore these metal headbands. It was a way of helping to tune the mental frequencies. Many of you still symbolically wear these headbands. These headbands and the mental manipulations led to mind control. The mind control led to yet a further separation between our spirit, our body, and our mind. And mind now became king. Getting trapped, particularly in the mind, also in the body, but particularly in the mind. Altering eventually what would be called the DNA. Making limitation kind of acceptable. The work that was done there wasn't sinister or evil. It was done for good reasons, but it kind of backfired in some ways. In some ways, you can't call it a backfire, it was just a big experience. But what it led to is tremendous limitation. Limitation in the body, limitation of the mind, tremendous limitation. Suddenly, the mind, which was supposed to be like a helpful guidance system, suddenly, because of these headbands, the minds got trapped. The minds got imprisoned. And suddenly, instead of a flow of energy and creativity, suddenly it was locked in the brain. With all that intense energy going into the brain as part of the genetic modification, suddenly the brain became the cause, the reason, the center of conflict. There was a programming that went into the mind that essentially allowed the mind to become hypnotized. Hypnosis was not even applicable before this mind control work took place. You couldn't mesmerize anybody. And there were those in power who truly loved this idea because they saw that it brought about a conformity and a standardization. It also kept some from going too fast and others going too slow. But it also allowed groups, and eventually all of humanity, to be able to be hypnotized, controlled, limited. There was this Atlantean implant that went into many. And eventually, because of this flowed even into the ones who didn't have the implants. This implant of mind control was so strong that it actually seeped out into the consciousness of all. And even if others hadn't had this type of mind control, it eventually found its way into consciousness of everyone. And it still exists today. What was the beauty, the benefit of the headbands, of the mind? What was the beauty? Because it wasn't a mistake. It was not a mistake. It only feels like that sometimes, but it wasn't a mistake. So this is real shaumbra wisdom.
What was it?
Experience. Absolutely. Experience. The I am doesn't care. The I am is like, whoa, there's something else. Hey, human, why don't you go down there and get really limited and then let me know how that was. I'll stay here in my grandness, but you go down there. It was because it can. It can go into limitation. And you have to feel this, not think it, but the I am wants to know, to feel, and to experience every potential. Not just nice potentials, not just big potentials, every potential. And even potentials of absolute separation. Absolute. I mean, here you are. Get into your I amness for a moment here. Okay, here you are in your I amness. Whoa, wouldn't it be fascinating to experience absolute separation to the point that I didn't even remember me? Let's give it a try. Let's put on some headbands and go for it. So separation, because it can, limitation for the experience. So one of the great big gifts of all of this, the headband stuff, being in the mind, commonality, mass consciousness, we are one, not. All of that is, it was a great way to help you eventually realize your sovereignty. It was kind of a warped, crazy way of doing it, but it was like, let's deny the sovereignty. Let's eliminate the sovereignty so that we finally have an appreciation. Because this journey, ever since really you asked that stupid question, who am I? It's all about coming to your sovereignty. That's it. The beauty of the headbands, the ultimate beauty of the headbands, in a way perhaps could not have been done any other way, is coming to sovereignty. Understanding from having been in the Borg, in the mass consciousness, locked in the mind, what true sovereignty is. That was the beauty. And it's taken from Atlantis till now to really even begin understanding it. That's the gift in the house of shaumbra, one of many gifts, but the gift you're going to be giving back to this planet. Sovereignty. I am that I am. Oh, I've been at the other end of the spectrum where I've been locked in the brain, put in the institution with the other prisoners, and told that I'll try to make it good. But I finally understood what sovereignty is. I am that I am. Now, feel into that for a moment. With the headbands and mass consciousness and all the rest of that, and you start to realize your sovereignty, your oneness within you, your uniqueness, your soul. Imagine now your experience in all this. Imagine how the I am is rejoicing. It now knows something, has the wisdom of something it never really knew before. Sovereignty. I exist. I am a sovereign being. I am God also. Now, maybe it seems like a kind of a long, cruel way of doing this whole thing with the headbands and getting into the brain, not knowing how to get out and everything else, but it really kind of happened in a flash of time. It really has been a hell of an experience. And now you're coming to sovereignty. It's time for sovereignty. It's the very reason that Atlantis really had to go through the changes that were precipitated by the headbands. It was time to get out of communal and now go into sovereignty. The mind right now understands it's time to go beyond itself, and actually it will be a very willing participant once it knows that you're ready. It will test you at first. It'll fight you. It'll see if you're for real. But when you hold to the I am, you understand I am that I am, it will then gladly relinquish its control. It will undo its fusing. It will become much more efficient. There was a time in Atlantis when there was much programming that was done through these things called the headbands. It was a type of metal that carried very specific electromagnetic frequencies, specific charges, to allow conformity of the human mind at a time when the Atlanteans, when the human race was seeking conformity. But ultimately, these headbands created the method for programming the mind, for limiting the nature of reality, for keeping the ceiling between this reality and the beyond. You still carry this headband, you still wear it upon your head, not physically, but energetically. Through this headband, there's still programming, hypnosis, suggestions, and fears that are placed deep into the mind. There are still controls, and you've allowed it to be up until now. How to go beyond? It's for you, from your heart, from your inner passion, to gently, lovingly remove these headbands. It's not glued onto your head. It's not a permanent part of your energetic structure. It can be removed with a conscious choice and desire. It can be let go symbolically releasing this Atlantean headband, symbolically letting yourself out of programming, hypnosis, limitations, mass consciousness, out of the matrix and into the beyond. When the headband is first lifted off by you and gently set aside, the mind will continue to try to operate on the old headband limitations. But with deep breathing combined with your deep longing and desire to go beyond, to go without limits, to go into expanded awareness, soon you will go beyond the mind. Your awareness will open up. The illumination will come. You will start to sense beyond the 5 human senses. You will start to perceive beyond the mind in a place that is deep and natural within you. And suddenly, you are beyond. So take a deep breath. This symbol of the Atlantean headbands, something that's held you back and limited you. And in this experience, you can release yourself from all those limitations. Also remembering, as these headbands start coming off, remembering there was a beauty in it. There really was. It wasn't a mistake. You come to appreciate it very deeply as you stay on this planet as embodied masters. It was all about sovereignty. take a deep breath, and if you choose, lift off the old Atlantean headband. Lift off the limits. Release yourself from the limitations of this reality.